everybody, and welcome to Fort Mackinac. My name is Jack, and I'm joined up here by Joe, and this is our cannon firing demonstration. Before we get started with loading and firing this cannon, I figured it would be a good idea we just talk real quickly about the soldiers that would have been stationed here at Fort Mackinac in the late 1880s, and what they would have been doing with a cannon like this. So, Joe and I are wearing the dress uniform of soldiers in the 23rd United States Infantry Regiment, Company E. They would have been stationed here at Fort Mackinac from 1884 to 1890. And during this time, the soldiers are playing a very unique role here at Fort Mackinac as the caretakers of the 2nd National Park of the United States. So this is a very peaceful post. There's not really any concern of combat. The soldiers still have to do regular duties, such as drill out in the parade ground 2 hours a day, as well as doing different sort of trainings out in the woods, and doing cannon firing. But they're not firing any cannonballs out into the harbor. They're doing exactly what we're going to be doing today, and just firing off black powder in a form of salute shot. So they're firing these off twice a day, once at the raising of the flag in the morning, and again at the lowering of the flag at night. They'd also be firing these off for national holidays. So today is Memorial Day, so they'd be firing it off for Memorial Day and Decoration Day, as it was called back then. They'd also fire it off for 4th of July, where they would do a national salute, where they would fire off the guns 38 times at dawn to commemorate all 38 states. So they would be repeating this process they've been firing this cannon on a pretty regular basis. But they're going to be using the same sort of gun that we have with us here today, this model 1841 6-pound smoothbore field gun. It's kind of a long and technical name, and the soldiers would have referred to this more as the 6-pounder. Now, this gun is not called the 6-pounder because it weighs 6 pounds. Rather, it refers to the size and weight of the cannonball that would have been fired. So this gun can shoot a 6-pound cannonball upwards of a mile. That'd be from here all the way out to the shores of Round Island out there. But this is a smoothbore gun, meaning there's no machine grooves or rifling. So the more accurate distance would be about to the White Lighthouse in the harbor, only about a half mile. This gun was seen a lot of action back in the American Civil War and the Mexican-American War during the 1840s. But by the time of the 1880s, this gun is horribly outdated. The United States Army now has rifled, breech-loading cannons that can put shells up to 5 miles away. They really have no need for an old Civil War-style cannon like this one in a battlefield situation. It just goes to show how militarily unimportant Fort Mackinac is. They're only going to be supplied with these old-style, smoothbore Civil War surplus guns. But with all that being said, I thought on this lovely Memorial Day that we'd fire this cannon off in your honors. That's like a good idea? Yes. All right, that sounds like just right amount of enthusiasm. So the first step will be for me to place my thumb over the vent or touch hole of the gun. This is going to prevent oxygen from getting into the bore of the weapon, while Joe here takes the gunner's worm down the bore of the weapon. He's going to fish out any material that might have been left over from a most previous shot. Now, if he had found anything, it would have been historically inaccurate aluminum foil. We use aluminum foil here rather than historically accurate muslin cloth, because muslin cloth has a tendency of catching on fire, and we don't want to send any flaming debris down to Marquette Park. The next step will be to use the gunner's sponge. This is simply wet sheep's wool on a ramrod. This will be sent down the bore of the weapon to extinguish any embers that still might be living inside this gun. This also pushes out all the oxygen, so it creates a little vacuum. You heard that thump? That's that vacuum collapsing. So now we're able to load in our cannon charge. We're going to be using about 5 ounces of black powder today. It's a bit smaller what they would have used back in the 1880s. They would have been using about 10 ounces of black powder. In a battlefield situation, they would have fired these off probably with 20 ounces of black powder. And now that that round is seated, I can remove my thumb, and we can roll the cannon up and into its firing position. Now the cannon is up in its firing position, we can prime the piece. It's a simple 2-part step. Joe's going to take this brass spike called a gimlet and send it down the vents of the cannon. This is going to pierce the charge, exposing that black powder. So when we send a flame down into the barrel of the gun, we'll ignite the whole charge and send it out. The final step is to use our ignition device, the same sort of ignition device that we used back in the 1880s. It's referred to as a friction primer. It works like a tiny grenade. You have a tube and a pin. Where the tube and pin meet is a chemical known as fulminate of mercury. That fulminate of mercury is highly susceptible to friction, so when that pin gets pulled, it causes the fulminate of mercury to spark, ignites the fine gunpowder in the tube, and shoots a jet of flame into the barrel of the gun. So now we're just about ready to fire this off. I'd like to remind you all that this is a cannon, maybe a tad bit loud, so I suggest either you cover your ears or pull out your cameras. And there are only 2 commands left to give. They are ready, fire!